Hello, it's me again, and against all better judgment, I'm going to talk about the Scott Pilgrim anime because I really like it and it's really good and I think you should watch it. I've been enjoying doing these little cartoon reviews where I just sort of sit back and talk about my thoughts about something like Thelma or My Adventures with Superman, and now Scott Pilgrim. I've been threatening to make a video about Scott Pilgrim for pretty much the entire time I've had this channel, and I've never done it despite it being one of my favorite movies.
The comic book is better than the movie. Hello.
And I even hesitate to say that because there is like a stigma around being a fan of Scott Pilgrim, and I want to explore that a little bit because the anime explores it a lot, actually.
You're on a quest to find a guy who was dating a high schooler. I'd never do anything that stupid.
I just want to make sure I understand what's happening here. We're both dating Scott at the same time and don't know it?
Yes, our lead character is flawed.
So when Scott Pilgrim Takes Off came out a couple of weeks ago, I feel like there were two reactions online. One being, whoa, this is really interesting and unexpected. And the other being, how could they do this to me? I definitely sit more in the former camp than the latter, and I sort of want to address why that is and why people might be feeling the way that they do. And I'm being very vague right here at the start because there is a pretty big plot twist that happens in the first episode, and I don't want to spoil it. So if you've not seen the show yet, this is your warning. I'm going to spoil everything pretty much immediately. So the show is called Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, and a big reason for that is because after the first episode, he's out of there. He's out of there for most of it. It's a whole new story, baby. So the first episode of the anime follows pretty faithfully the first volume of the Scott Pilgrim graphic novels, up to the point where he faces off against Ramona's first evil ex-boyfriend, Matthew Patel. By the way, I'm assuming you at least have some sort of understanding of the original story of Scott Pilgrim.
Scott! Evil X! Right.
I think you need it. You kind of do need it to go into this anime. I wouldn't recommend anyone going into the anime first. I would say definitely watch the movie at the very least because it makes so many more references to the movie than the comic book, including obviously having like the entire voice cast from the movie return for their roles in this series. But yeah, so Scott faces off against Matthew Patel, and instead of it going Scott's way, he dies. Matthew Patel just straight up beats Scott Pilgrim out of existence. Or so we're led to believe at first. But then it's revealed pretty quickly afterwards in episode 2 that Scott was kidnapped from like time and space. And now the bigger story is this mystery of Ramona trying to track down who did it, who kidnapped Scott. And of course, the obvious suspects are Ramona's 7 evil exes. So now we get this fun twist on the story. Instead of Scott facing off against Ramona's 7 evil exes, we get Ramona going up and contending with her own past, fighting off against her evil exes, or even just repairing those relationships. It's much more about Ramona Flowers in this story than it is about Scott, which is not to say that Scott is totally absent. I think there seems to be at least a loud group of people online who didn't make it through the first 2 to 3 episodes and feel like Scott is not around at all throughout the rest of the series after episode 1. But he is. He's there. And in fact, I would say his story even still feels complete, even though he's absent for most of it. Because after Ramona confronts all of her exes and contends with her past, we learn that the real person who kidnapped Scott was the future version of Scott. He and Ramona got together, got married, and then got divorced, and future Scott was so full of heartbreak that he went back in time to kidnap himself to prevent him from falling in love with Ramona in the first place to save him from this heartbreak. And this is really interesting to me. I think future Scott sort of takes the place of nega Scott in the comic books, not so much the movie, where it's Scott confronting literally himself and all of these things that he has to get over and learn and grow as a person. But instead of it being all of this stuff from his own past, it's showing almost how little he's changed in the future and realizing that if he doesn't change, if he doesn't grow, then, you know, this is the person he's going to be. He's going to be Will Forte, which in any other context would be cool. And I want to talk about nega Scott for a little bit because even though nega Scott as a concept is not in this anime, I think it is the most telling part of the Scott Pilgrim branching storylines from the comic to the movie to now this show. So in the comics, when Scott faces off against nega Scott, it really does feel like the emotional turning point of the series when Scott realizes how much that he has to change and grow. And not only that, but to just fully understand all of the things that he's done in his past and really come to terms with them and not just run away from them or hide from them or make excuses for them. I'm going to say something that's probably not controversial at all to my audience, but Scott Pilgrim is not a good person, and he's not meant to be a good person. And it's funny how every adaptation of this story continues to make that less subtext and just straight text. When Scott faces off against Nega Scott in the movie, it's the very final battle that he has in the movie. It's after he's defeated the entire league of evil X's. You think that it's done, and then suddenly Nega Scott appears. It's the exact opposite of everything that Scott Pilgrim is. And you think there's gonna be this epic battle, but there's not. Because it turns out that Nega Scott is just a good guy. And if Nega Scott is a good guy, and he's the opposite of Scott Pilgrim, what does that make Scott Pilgrim? Now, again, this is very different from how it played out in the comics, but I think it was necessary in the movie because of how much people just like Michael Cera.
You don't remember me, do you? We met at the party the other day.
Were you the Pac-Man guy?
No, not even. That was some total ass. I was the other guy.
I think Michael Cera as an actor is just very good and weirdly charming in a way that's so hard to see him as an ass. So even though the movie still tries to hammer home that Scott Pilgrim is not a good person, they, at the very end of the movie, just in case you didn't get it, face him off against Nega Scott, the opposite of Scott, who is...
He's just a really nice guy. We're going to get brunch next week.
Because I've recommended Scott Pilgrim versus the World to a lot of my friends, and people have walked away from it being like, I thought the movie was good, but I just don't think Scott Pilgrim was a very good character. And I'm like, good. That's good. That's what the movie wants you to think. That's even what the comic wants you to think. The very first line in the comic is Scott Pilgrim is dating a high schooler. He's 23 and he's dating a 17-year-old Knives Chow. He is not supposed to be the good guy. And again, I feel like this is very obvious to most of you watching who are typically in my audience. You know this already. This is not revolutionary, but there is a subset of people online who don't know that and really just like Scott Pilgrim as a person. I think he's a great character. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a really great character. He's a bad person. Both of those things can be true at the same time, which I also think is probably something that people have a hard time understanding sometimes. Like, I made a tweet last month about how I think Reed Richards is a dick, but that doesn't mean I don't like the character. I love the character of Reed Richards. I like when he's a little smarmy asshole. But everyone got really mad at me because they thought I was saying that Mr. Fantastic was a bad character, or that I didn't like the character, and they were trying to defend the character. And I'm like, you don't have to. I like the character. Your faves don't need to be unproblematic. They can be extremely problematic. I mean, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia has like a 1,000 seasons. I say all this in the context of the anime because the anime goes even further to really, really hammer in that Scott is not someone you want to look up to, at least not at the start. I mean, I feel like the whole book and the whole movie is Scott being an asshole and then at the very end becoming slightly less of an asshole.
Have you ever dated someone that wasn't a total ass?
Well, so far you're not a total ass.
But I'm part ass?
That's his character growth. He just learns and he understands that what his actions have done to other people. In the comics, he gets the power of understanding. In the movie, he gets the power of self-respect. It's literally just him growing a little bit. And I think in a lot of ways, that's what makes it good and relatable and even like a little cozy at some times, is that the characters don't need to have full 180s. They just need to like you and me, you know? Just grow a little bit every day and be better a little bit every day. And so having really the main villain of the story be an older version of Scott, one who hasn't really learned anything, one who hasn't really grown at all. He's still living with Wallace. He's still trying to make his band work. He's trying to run away from his feelings and avoid his feelings rather than confront them. The anime is literally saying Scott Pilgrim is the bad guy. And I think it's great for it. It's such a good story. And like, I know that people got upset that Scott Pilgrim wasn't in very much of the show called Scott Pilgrim. Like, people have been calling it a sort of, bait and switch, tricking the audience into thinking the show is one thing when really it's this other thing and they feel lied to. It's not like Scott Pilgrim isn't in the show at all. He's in the first episode and he's definitely in the last 2 episodes. And there's not many episodes in between, but the story still revolves around finding out what happened with his disappearance. Also, I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now. And I'm like 200 hours in, and I just got to Baldur's Gate. Like, I don't really know what to tell you. I don't care. I just don't care. I mean, because what you're really saying is they got all of these characters that I love, voiced by these actors that I love. And there's a new story with all of them together? There's new adventures with these characters that I adore? I don't know how I could possibly complain about that. If anything, I was way more stoked to watch it. And I'm a huge Scott Pilgrim fan. Like I said, it was like one of my favorite movies. It's still my second favorite movie. It was my first favorite movie for a long time until I watched Kiki's Delivery Service, and I was like, oh, sorry, Scott. The whole world of Scott Pilgrim is so cool and filled with these rich characters that, in my opinion, get kind of bogged down by Scott being there. And I think it is the point as well. And even beyond that, like, the main story in the current time, when Scott Pilgrim disappears and they're trying to solve this mystery in present day, it almost plays out like the ending part of It's a Wonderful Life, where he sort of sees what everyone's life is like without him there. But instead of everyone sort of being miserable, it's actually everybody sort of flourishing. Young Neil becomes like an author slash playwright, screenwriter, very successful. Julie Powers partners with Gideon Graves to just do evil shit. Todd discovers that he's bi. That's so good. This is the part of the video where I'm just going to gush about all the stuff I love now. I love that Todd is bi. As a bi person myself, yeah. Brie Larson and Kieran Culkin? Yeah, obviously. I love Knives Chow. She's one of my favorite characters. But having her expanded upon more in this series to be a fellow musician and to go on to produce music with Steven Stills for Envy Adams, like they're songwriters together. It's so good. And it's also just like really adorable how she wears Scott's jacket through a lot of the show too. I saw people complain about Kieran Culkin not really giving it anything when voicing Wallace in the show. I totally disagree. I think that's just Wallace's vibe. He and a lot of characters had a much bigger part in this series than in the movie. And I know that I'm referencing the movie a lot more than I'm referencing the comic book, but that is because this series, I feel like, requires you to watch the movie more than it requires you to read the comics. Like, the fact that they are the same actors voicing these characters, and the fact that there are a lot of jokes about the movie. There's like a whole segment with them making a movie about the story that could have been.
You wrote an entire script about a world where Scott Pilgrim won the fight with Matthew Patel.
Scott at one point makes a joke about how it's funny that one actor can play the same character in 2 different adaptations. There's a lot of meta stuff like that, specifically about the movie. I loved seeing Ramona get more screen time. She's one of the main characters of the story, and she didn't get really as much screen time in the movie to develop her backstory and develop her character nearly as much as she gets in this show. I mean, the whole show is her confronting her past as she takes down her evil exes in whatever way. You know, it can be a fight, it can be an emotional talk, it can be just her sort of exploring her past. She dyes her hair a lot. Maybe too much. If you did it in real life, your hair would fall out. That's what happened to me. I didn't even talk about the animation is gorgeous. The music by Anamanaguchi, amazing. They did the video game. And there's like a part at the end of the show where Scott Pilgrim's story turns into a musical. And I love this because for years, I've been saying that with every adaptation of Scott Pilgrim, from, the original comics to the video game to the movie to now this, Scott Pilgrim would be perfect as a musical. I cannot believe no one's made it into a musical. It is so theatrical. I mean, the movie alone is so theatrical. It's funny. It's already got music incorporated into it. Somebody make it a musical. I don't want to. I'm busy. And can we take a second to recognize just what a year that Jason Schwartzman is having right now? I'm not the first person to make this observation, but I mean, he was the Spot in Across the Spider-Verse and He was in the Wes Anderson movie, Asteroid City. I didn't just forget the name of it. I love that movie. I got drunk at my bachelor party earlier this year and gave an impromptu essay about Asteroid City to all my friends. I don't remember it, but it's good stuff. And of course, he reprised his role as Gideon Graves in this show, and he did it's such a different take on the character than what he played. Plus, anytime Mae Whitman comes to voice a character in a show, I mean, knocks it out of the park 100%. Her version of Roxy in this anime was voiced a little bit differently and portrayed a little bit differently than how she did it in the movie, but I think fit even better. I mean, I think she by far is one of the more experienced voice actors in this anime. Like, Chris Evans, I love you, bud. I don't want to watch Lightyear. Although, since people are complaining that what they really want is an animated retelling of the comics exactly, like beat for beat, I think they should do it Watchmen style, like when Watchmen did the motion comic and all the characters were voiced by one actor. And I think they could get Chris Evans to do every character, and that would be very funny. I'm not opposed to the idea of like an animated retelling of the actual original comic book, but boy, this show is something special. I often threaten that I'm gonna like redo some of my old videos. Yeah, I've been doing YouTube for 10 years now, and there are definitely a lot of videos where I touch on sensitive subjects without really much thought or care or understanding of what I'm actually communicating, and sometimes I word things in a way or say things in a way or even come to a full conclusion in a way that I wouldn't agree with these days. And that's what each adaptation of Scott Pilgrim feels like. This one especially. This one feels like Brian Lee O'Malley saw the opportunity to take this story with all of these characters that are so good and so beloved and tell a story that he's only able to tell now with the benefit of hindsight. It's like Scott Pilgrim in a way, right? Every day you grow and you change and you understand and you become more empathetic and you realize that some of the stuff in your past could have done differently, but instead of hiding from it and running away from it, you embrace it and you say, what can I do to change? What can I do right now to fix stuff that I've broken? What can I do right now to make the world a better place, to make these people that I care about feel cared for? What can I do to be just a little bit less of an asshole? At least that's what this show feels like to me. But those are just my thoughts about Scott Pilgrim. I asked my wife what she thought, and quick, say something shocking so that I can put it in the teaser.
Shocking. Oh no.
And if you want to hear her thoughts, guess what? Emily is a Nebula exclusive. She specifically told me she likes it that way. That's right, there's a whole second video talking about this show over on Nebula, along with some other bonus content that I throw up exclusively for Nebula and the people who support me over there. And guess what? This holiday season, Nebula is offering lifetime memberships for one single payment of $300. So if you don't like living the subscription lifestyle, you can instead pay one time and you will get access to Nebula for as long as it exists and as long as you exist, which is forever. You're never going to die. No one will ever break that curse I put on you. Just head on over to the very first link in the description. That's go.nebula.tv/NerdSync. Why are we doing this? Why? Because Nebula is a creator-owned streaming service, and so we're all creators, and we want to raise capital so we can continue to do more fun, artistic things. Creator-owned projects like Taboo on Screen from Broey de Chanel, or Identities from Jesse Gender. That one's coming in 2024. In fact, we have a whole slate of movies and documentaries and shows and a bunch of other stuff for next year and beyond that we can't really share, but it doesn't matter, because if you get a lifetime membership, you'll have access to all of it. Plus, it'll help us make more, and I think that's fun too. And right now for the holidays, you can even gift a lifetime membership to Nebula. Do you have a friend or loved one who you think might like jet lag? Give them lifetime access, and you could watch it together. Cuddle up on the couch. Maybe kiss a little bit if you're both into it. Now, here's something important. If you've watched any of my previous videos that have had a Nebula sponsorship, you know that we used to bundle access to Nebula with another streaming service called CuriosityStream. To any of you who have done that, who have signed up for that bundle, I was not kidding when I said this was an important message that I need to deliver to you. So thank you for being here. Because that specific bundle is ending. I know that potentially hundreds of you have signed up to support me and my videos and Nebula as a whole through that bundle with CuriosityStream. So I think it is important for me to note, and I'm just gonna read verbatim here for the lawyers, CuriosityStream has informed us, and even included in their latest SEC filings, that they do not intend to pay us any bundle revenue in 2024, even for the accounts that still have access. What I can say is this: if you have renewed your subscription to Nebula through this bundle at some point in 2023, you will still have access until your 12-month membership expires. But just keep in mind the things that I said like 2 or 3 sentences ago. Because if you did sign up through that bundle to support me and to support Nebula, and you still want your money to support me and my videos and all that stuff, then the only way to do that going forward in 2024 is not through that bundle, but through supporting Nebula directly with a direct subscription to Nebula or with one of these lifetime memberships that we're offering for the holidays. And to hopefully make it easier for the people who did sign up with the bundle deal, if you do switch to a direct Nebula subscription, you'll sign up and pay today, but we won't actually start the clock on your subscription until your current bundle one expires. I hope that makes sense. Thank you to everyone who has supported me in any way, shape, or form, especially through Nebula. You're helping us make creator-owned projects on a creator-owned streaming service. I think that's amazing. Once again, it's just go.nebula.tv/NerdSync. It's the very first link in the description. Let me know what you thought about the series in the comments. I really liked it, if you couldn't tell. I hope you like these videos where I just sort of sit and talk about my thoughts about something that came out. I'm not usually one to review things, but I've been having fun just like sitting in a little cozy room talking to you about something I like. Emily, this is really awkward, but I forgot to record the very last thing that I say in every one of my videos. Oh. But now you're here, so you want to help me close it out.
Really love to close out.
Until next time, my name is Scott, reminding you to explore your favorite art through
curiosity and vulnerability. I almost forgot it.
Bye-bye.